Ever get the feeling that, like, for real change to happen, we need something big, you
Like,
know? Yeah, like a leader or a movement, something outside of ourselves to, like, really get things going?
I think a lot of people feel that way right now. Like they're looking around at everything that's happening and it just feels so overwhelming.
Totally. But what if the key to making things better is actually much closer than we think? What if it's not about waiting for someone else to step in, but it actually starts with each of us?
That takes us straight to the idea of perspective,
Yeah.
right? Like how we see the problems, but
Right.
also where we look for solutions
Yeah.
and even the role that we think we can play in all of this.
Exactly. And that's really what we're going to be like diving deep into today. We're going to be checking out this message from someone named Hakann. Now, Hakann, they're very open about speaking from a particular perspective. They call it a privileged position, and they recognize that it might not be the same as everyone else's. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. Your own experiences and how you see things are totally valid, even if they don't match up perfectly with what Hakann's saying.
I think that's such an important point to make right up front. Like we can get insights from all sorts of different sources. And even if someone's circumstances are really different from our own, the core ideas can still be super valuable to think about.
Yeah, totally. And the big idea that Hakan's putting forward is this. A better world is coming. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. But how quickly we get there and how smooth the journey is, well, Hakann says that really depends on the choices that humanity makes, like right now, in this moment.
So there's this like really strong emphasis on our agency. Right? We're not just sitting back and watching things happen. Our actions, both individually and collectively, they actually make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. So in this deep dive, we really want to like unpack what Hakann sees as the main things that are slowing us down from getting to that better future, and maybe even more surprisingly, who Hakann thinks are the real change makers in all of this.
I'm intrigued. Let's dive in.
Okay. So from Hakann's point of view, what are those big obstacles that are like holding us back?
So there are a couple of key things that Hakan highlights. The first one is this lack of consciousness, which also means a lack of love. And this kind of connects to all the stuff we hear about personal growth, spirituality, just being nicer to each other.
Yeah, like all that inner work that we do on ourselves.
Right, exactly. It's like this inner transformation that then ripples outwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. So focusing on ourselves. But the second obstacle that Hakann talks about, and this is where it gets really interesting, is this idea that people are programmed to think that they are powerless and they need to wait for some other person to be the change maker. Oh, I've heard that one. You know, that feeling of like just being one tiny little piece in a giant machine and that nothing you do could possibly make any real difference.
Right, like you're just along for the ride.
Yeah, exactly. And Hakann uses this really vivid analogy to describe it, the chained elephant.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It's like you've got this baby elephant, right? And it's tied to this little stake in the ground, tries to break free over and over again, but he can't. And then even when it grows up, it becomes this massive, incredibly strong animal. It still believes it's trapped, even though it could easily just rip that stake right out of the ground.
It's such a powerful image. And it really highlights how these like deeply ingrained but ultimately false beliefs about our own powerlessness, they can stop us from taking action, even when we actually have the ability to make things different.
It's like we're stuck in this old pattern based on times when maybe our collective efforts didn't really lead to the changes we hoped for.
Right. And Hakann acknowledges that.
Yeah.
There have been those past disappointments.
But what they're saying is that the energies right now, they're different, more
Yeah.
favorable for change to actually happen.
So this whole idea of waiting for someone else to fix things, Hakann really dives into this. They specifically talk about these external savior narratives.
Okay.
And like, let's take the example of a political figure, and they actually mention Trump specifically, or even these like, galactics that some people believe are going to show up and solve all our problems for us. Like, what's Hakann's perspective on all of that?
Hakan's pretty straightforward about it, actually. They say that way of thinking, it just totally underestimates the potential and the agency of every single one of us, of every listener. It creates this sense of passivity.
Yeah.
Like you're just waiting around for something to happen instead of like rolling up your sleeves and actually participating in creating the change you want to see.
It's like we're giving our power away to someone or something else.
Exactly. It's like outsourcing our hope.
Right. But then you've got the opposite of that, right? The people who think that everyone in power is corrupt, like they're all black hats, and that there's no help coming from anywhere.
Yeah, that all is lost feeling.
So how does Hakann address that point of view?
Well, they offer a bit of a more nuanced view.
Hmm.
They acknowledge that not everyone in a position of power is necessarily working towards positive change, but they don't think it's as simple as saying that everyone is a black hat.
Okay.
They point to things that haven't happened, like widespread lockdowns or mandatory medical interventions or major global wars, as evidence that there are also people in influential positions
Okay.
who Hakann calls gray hats,
Okay.
who are actively working to prevent the worst possible outcomes.
So even within these systems that seem really negative or corrupt, there might be individuals who are trying to do some good.
Right. It's a more complex picture than just like good guys versus bad guys.
Yeah, totally. And Hakan even refers to Trump 2.0, those are their words, as a gray hat. And they give some interesting reasoning for that. Can you talk a bit more about their perspective on that?
Sure. Hakann points to certain actions, things like efforts to strengthen border security, which they see as helping to disrupt trafficking networks.
Hmm.
And they also talk about how using something like DOGE, the cryptocurrency, can expose government corruption and financial mismanagement.
Mm.
The main point for Hakann is the impact these actions have on waking more people up to what's really going on. But it's really important to remember that there are definitely criticisms and different interpretations of this figure and these actions.
Yeah.
It's not like a straightforward endorsement from Hakann. It's more of an analysis through this specific gray hat lens.
So by challenging these external savior narratives, the positive ones and the negative ones,
Yeah,
it really sets up Hakan's main point, which is that the true change maker is actually you.
exactly. The focus shifts from looking outside of ourselves to looking inward and to taking action together, like at a grassroots level.
Yeah.
Hakann encourages listeners to follow their own inner guidance and to get involved in initiatives that really resonate with them personally.
So what might that look like in practice?
It could take so many different forms,
Hmm.
from peaceful protest to community organizing to even just sharing information or participating in meditation groups.
Okay.
The key is to act on that inner prompting, no matter how small it might seem at first.
So it's not necessarily about like grand gestures or massive movements.
Not necessarily no. It's more about like that consistent, aligned action.
Yeah. And they also talk about what not to do, right? Like
Yeah.
no violence, no trying to arrest people.
Right. That's seen as the responsibility of other entities, according to Hakann.
Okay.
And they also caution against like labeling entire groups of people as completely good or completely bad.
It's about nuance, right?
Yeah, exactly. That call for nuance is so important, especially in the kind of polarized world that we're living in right now.
Yeah, I mean, think about how often we see that. It's always us versus them.
Right, exactly. And Hakann suggests that like recognizing the validity of at least some points of view on different sides of an issue, that can be a way more productive approach than just making these broad generalizations.
Now, Hakan mentions this idea that the collective is ready for new ideas. And that might sound a little optimistic to some people, given all the division that we see. What's the thinking behind that statement?
It's actually a pretty broad idea.
Hmm.
Hakann suggests that there's this like fundamental agreement across lots of different groups and viewpoints, from left to right, from man to woman, from young to old, that the way things are right now, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not truly fulfilling. And that shared sense of dissatisfaction, even if the reasons for it are different, it creates an opening,
Yeah.
a space for new solutions and different ways of living to take root and grow.
So it's like even though we seem divided on the surface, there's this deeper level where we're all kind of on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're all feeling that something needs to change.
And that really gives new meaning to that whole be the change you want to see in the world thing, doesn't it?
Hakann calls it as precious as gold. It's not just a nice saying. It's like a really practical call to action.
Yeah. And they acknowledge that it's not going to be easy all the time creating change.
Yeah.
But they really emphasize the strength and resilience that we all have inside of us.
They believe that a lot of people just underestimate their own capabilities and the positive impact that they can have, even with things that seem small.
There's this interesting point, too, about shifting priorities, the idea that soul growth is more important than the comfort of our lower self.
Okay.
How does that connect to why we might not see like this big external intervention happening right away?
It brings in this like longer term perspective. From Hakann's view, the main focus from this higher spiritual perspective is on the evolution of consciousness, on soul growth, rather than just our immediate comfort and desires. So maybe that's part of the reason why solutions to these global challenges don't appear as quickly as we might want them to.
Yeah.
The focus is on this deeper learning and growth that's happening within each individual.
And what about the mention of galactic involvement? Like Hakann gives a specific probability, 70 to 75%, of open contact or private meetings with light workers happening in the near future.
Hmm. Light workers being individuals who are consciously working towards positive change.
Yeah, exactly. So how does that fit in with this message about individual empowerment?
The important thing to remember is that even if we do have more interaction with these other groups, it's not seen as a magic solution.
Okay.
Hackens really clear that it's still up to us, to Earth humans, to build new Earth. These interactions are meant to be supportive,
Mm,
maybe even like heart-opening,
yeah.
but they're not a substitute for our own efforts.
Okay.
It's more like a collaboration than a rescue mission.
And Hakann also talks about these rising energies, making it easier to start new projects and to speak your truth.
Yeah, it sounds really encouraging.
Yeah, like there's this shift happening that makes it feel less difficult to step into your authenticity and to take action.
Hakan suggests that there's this growing momentum, like a wind at your back,
Yeah.
that supports those who are awakening and taking action on their inner guidance.
So it's not to say that there won't be challenges or resistance,
Right, there will be.
but there's this sense that things are moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, like a greater likelihood of positive movement and resonance with others who are also on that path.
So it sounds like Hakan is saying that both extremes, the someone's going to come and save us
Mhm.
mentality and the everything's doomed and there's nothing we can do feeling, they both miss the point.
Yeah.
Like they both underestimate the incredible potential that each of us has to make a positive difference in the world.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the real power lies within us, within the collective of individuals who are willing to step into their roles as agents of change.
However that looks for them.
Yeah, in whatever way feels most authentic and aligned.
And listening to all of this, it really feels like Hakan's message is speaking directly to you, to the listener, like you are the one you've been waiting for. And
Mm.
and they even acknowledge how challenging and unfair things can feel right now.
Yeah.
How do you think that feeling connects to this idea of being a change maker?
Well, Hakan actually reframes that feeling of difficulty. They say that these challenging times are precisely why individuals with your potential, your inner light, are here on Earth right now. Like if everything were easy and harmonious, your unique skills and wisdom and contributions, they wouldn't be as needed.
Hmm.
It's the intensity of the situation that calls forth the strength and resilience within you.
So it's like we're being called to step up precisely because things are so tough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here looking at Hakan's perspective on the obstacles and this empowering idea of individual agency. For our final thoughts, what's the key takeaway that you think listeners should really hold on to?
The core message for me is this powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
The power to create a better world. It's not out there somewhere. It's not some external force that we have to wish for.
Yeah.
It's the combined strength of all of us,
Mm.
of individuals taking conscious steps, guided by their own inner wisdom, and a genuine desire for positive change. Like the solutions we're looking for, they're more likely to come from that collective awakening
Yeah.
than from any single savior or event.
So as you're thinking about all of this, I want you to consider this question. What small step, even if it seems insignificant right now, do you feel even a little bit inspired to take based on what we've talked about today? Maybe it's a subtle shift in your own thinking, or a small act of kindness that you feel called to do, or even just reaching out to connect with others who share a similar vision. What if that seemingly small step is actually you embracing your own potential as the change maker you've been waiting for?
It's a powerful thought to leave with for sure.
It is, isn't it? All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, the change starts with you.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.